situation, a difficult situation, how does he respond? Well, if he just saw a miracle the day before, it's not so much so simple that he's going to respond so positively, because he didn't earn anything. He didn't make the miracle part of who he is. But now look at Megillat Esther. Let's start with Megillat Esther.
How do you make the miracle part of who you are?
So now I'm going to go into it. So let's look at Megillat Esther. Megillat Esther has a very interesting thing. You don't find God's name in it, and you don't really have any superheroes either. You know, in the Midbar we had Moshe Rabbeinu, we had Pinchas. Well, the Gemara Megillah states very harsh words for Mordechai, the way the Am Yisrael felt about Mordechai. He wasn't a very popular guy.
Was the majority? Was the minority?
What?
The minority felt that way, no?
Well, here's the thing. The decree of Haman happened, why? Because of who? Because of Mordechai. Because he didn't bow. What were the people saying?
Come on, man.
Woe to King David that he didn't kill Mordechai's great ancestors, so that Mordechai wouldn't have been born. They said King David should have killed his great ancestors so that Mordechai shouldn't have been born. That's how much they were saying, well, what is he doing to us? They said, this great grandson of Shaul pained us twice. He got us twice. How did he get us twice? One time he didn't kill Amalek, right? He didn't kill Agag. Who came from Agag? Haman. The second time, who's one of Shaul's great grandchildren? Mordechai. So they said, so he wasn't very popular.
It's a Benjamin.
Okay, yeah, well, right. So Esther. Ooh, we have another popular character in the Megillah. Esther. She wrote the Megillah, right? Esther. Well, she wasn't so popular either. You see, at first they said, okay, well, we have a person in position, right? We have the queen. She's going to stand for us. And all of a sudden, what do they see? The first day, she invites Achashverosh and Haman to a party themselves. Just the three of them. They're looking at this and saying, she's the one we're putting our hat on? She's having a secluded party with the Goy and the Yimach Shemo Haman? And then the next day again, a party. All the newspapers in Shushan. Queen Esther invites them to a... The Yehudim are looking at us saying, are you serious? This is the person who we were depending on? So if you look at it, there was no human that they were depending on in this situation. It was the one time where they came to a conclusion based on their own logic. We have no one who we can depend on except for God. Hashem moved all the pieces so that they would have nobody that they could trust. Hashem didn't want them to hate Mordechai, but He made it so that they couldn't even trust in Mordechai. He made it so that they wouldn't even trust in Esther. He made it so that they felt the entire world was against them. Who do you turn in that situation? There's nothing in the physical world that can help them. Who did they turn to? God. At that moment, they did an amazing thing. At that moment, they didn't trust in the physicality, they didn't trust in the military, they didn't trust in the diplomats, they didn't trust in the politics. None of that. No trees, nothing. They turned to God and they start to pray. They said, if God is not going to be with us, we're done. There's no point. There's no point. It was at that moment Hashem saved them. You see, Hashem does some amazing miracles. But this was a miracle that started before anyone even figured out that there was a problem. You see, the Megillah begins with the words, Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh. The Gemara Megillah says, Vayihi lashon tsar. It's a painful language. It means that it's an indication that a problem is going to happen. What's the problem? Vayihi Achashverosh. There's a party. Where's the tsar? The Yehudim, and that's at chapter 1 are saying, what's the problem? Chapter 2, chapter 3, there's no problem. But it was at that moment already, Hashem already started having the refuah, the healing, He already put into place. He kills Vashti. He starts raising Haman. We don't see it yet, but in the background, these are starting to put the pieces in place. Because he kills Vashti, he now takes Esther. But now Haman is starting to raise up. But as Haman is raising up, Mordechai is going down. So you say, wait a minute, hold on, that looks bad. No. That's great. Because Mordechai goes down, we lose faith in Mordechai. And because Haman's going up, we start getting scared of the decree. So from both ends, we start pushing ourselves towards God even more and more and more. In fact, the Gemara Megillah says a very shocking thing. It says that the removal of the tabat, of the ring of the king, when Haman took the ring of the king to make the decree, that moved the Jews more than the 48 Nevi'im and the 7 Nevi'ot. More than any of the prophets were able to move Am Yisrael. By him removing the tabat, the ring of the king, and making the seal, that the decree, he was able to move the Jews even more than what any prophet was able to move them. That's heavy stuff. So we see that Hashem was already orchestrating the refuah, and it didn't look like a refuah. When we saw it, it didn't look like a refuah. What did we see? We see Haman raising up. We see Mordechai dropping. Esther in the background. What's going on here? The pieces of the puzzle don't make sense. But this was a nes. I saw in Issachar a very powerful thing. And again, let's play with the letters. The word nes is 110. 110. Nun and Samech. Nun 50, Samech 60. 110. If you take, I told you, what's an Adam? Adam is 45. It's Mem Hey. If you take this name of God, which means you filled up God's name with olives, you were able to see. You took godliness and you took what was a very foreign concept and you brought it down the pipeline and you made it part of who you were. And we'll explain in a minute how do you make it part of who you are. And you put it to who you are. You filled up God's name with olives. What did you fill up with olives, actually? So if you remember, the name I told you was Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? But what did we fill up with olives? We filled up the Hey with an olive, the Vav was with an olive, and the other Hey was with an olive, right? I told you, Yud is spelled Yud Vav Daled, but the Hey is Hey Aleph, the Vav is Vav Aleph Vav, and the last Hey is Hey Aleph. So the Vav, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey, we filled it up. Do you remember last week, 2 weeks ago, we spoke about these 3 letters? Mm-hmm. We said the first Hey is Machshava. The Vav is your speech, your dibur. And the last Hey is your Ma'aseh. In everything that you do, you want to make godliness part of you? It's very simple. The answer is insert an Aleph. So now you're saying, what are you talking about? Okay, that's nice. It worked on paper, right? It worked on paper because what did you do? Let me finish the numerical values, and then we're going to get into the mitzvah.
Insert a letter in Abraham's name.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they say N1.
N1. They took it from the Jews. The Adam, the 45, that's in Yud Kei Vav Kei. Mm-hmm. But what about, and that's easy. That's when the situation is clear to you. But what about when the situation is an Aleph Daled Nun Yud? How do you respond? Do you respond as an Aleph or a Daled Yud Nun, a Din? How do you respond? So again, there's 2 types of situations. Those situations which we see with clarity, they're easy. They're Yud Kei Vav Keis. Those we fill up with Alephs. But then there's the Aleph Daled Nun Yud situations, the Din. Just again to complete the values. If you take the word Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which is 65, plus the 45, get 110. That's a nes. You want a nes? You want a miracle? People say, I need a miracle. You want a miracle? The miracle is very simple. Fill things with olives. Now I'm going to explain to you what it means to fill things with olives. It says, Kol hakoes ki'ilu oved ovdei elilim. Oved zara. Anyone who gets angry, it's as if he's worshiping idols. Why does a person get angry? Why is he angry? What's the root of anger? The root of anger is kavod, but it is also a lack of relationship of emunah.
I disagree with what Hashem is doing.
Yes. I know better. I know better. When the person spoke to you in that manner, that he wasn't supposed to speak to you. When the supplier gave you a defective product. When you got a different grade than you thought you were going to get. Any of the situations. The shidduch didn't go as you thought it was going to go. The business plan didn't go as you... Is that going to be a cause situation, even on a minute level? Do we disagree with the result? Or do we say, wait a minute, I want to see past what's just this result. I know there's more than that. I want to give this physicality a brit milah. I'm going to remove the physicality and I want to see past the message. If a person approaches life in that fashion, that's called filling his life with olives. He's always putting everything back on God. He's connecting. Aleph is the connecting. It connects the Yud, God's wisdom, through a pipeline, the Torah, to our wisdom, our lowly wisdom, Yud. The word Kaz, with the Kolel, has a numerical value of 151. The word mikveh also shares the same value, 151. When a person goes into the mikveh, what's one of the first things supposed to be, have a kavanah? To remove from himself the kas. To remove from himself the ability that he thinks he knows what he's doing. To remove from himself the ability that he thinks he achieves the results that he thinks that he's achieving. All those things are not really his hand. All of those things are only from God. So the first thing, if a person wants to be pure, he wants to attach himself to God, the first thing is called bitul atzmi. I want to give you something, and take this with you. I have a cup of water here. The paper in front of here is sitting pretty far away from the water. Do you see anything behind the paper? No. I'm going to move it closer and closer until it's like this. Now you at least know that there's something underneath the paper. You don't know what it is, but you can see that something is behind the paper. Whereas when I had the paper farther away, you couldn't tell there's anything behind the paper. This is physicality. Godliness is the cup. It's the thing behind the physicality. The sheet is our moach, is our brain. If we move physicality all the way back and put it on top of God, we will see that there's something called, it's bolet. What's bolet? Bolet is it sticks out. Remember I told you with the tefillin shel rosh? There's some people who have a minhag, according to the Arizal, to cover the entire tefillin shel rosh. Why do you cover it? And you squeeze the talit down on it. Because if you ever saw that when you put the tefillin like this and you squeeze the talit down, all of a sudden your talit has a bulge coming out of it. What's the bulge coming out of it? God says, that's me back there. I'm in the background. But you only know that I'm in the background if you move physicality all the way back on top of me. The letters of bolet are the same letters as bitul, batel. If a person nullifies himself, if he says he's nothing, it's not him. He's not the one who's making the choices. He's not the one he's doing mitzvot, he's doing what he needs to do. But he's not the one who's going to figure out the world's problems. He's not the one who's going to it wasn't just for naught that the supplier sent him the wrong things, or the pothole was in the place, or whatever, etc., etc., etc. Any person can fill in the blanks. When he says that, you know what he's doing? He's putting on top of the physicality the cover so tight that he's able to see God. So how do you do that? How do you do that? It's very simple. The more you learn, the more you're training your eye to see. The more you train your eye to see. Again, how does it work? When you're learning about concepts about Kadosh Baruch Hu, and I tell you this every time, like, even if you're learning something in the Gemara that sounds so random, know that it's not so random. I'm going to give you an example now.
It depends who the teacher is, though.
If you know that it's not random, you're going to look into that piece of Gemara until you get the answer. That there's more than just a simple halakha. There's a musar. There's something that you take home with you. Gemara Megillah begins with the following idea. You read the Megillah on the 11th